Imagine living in a community where your entire life, down to what you wear, is controlled by one man who claims to speak for God. Hi, I'm Grant.
And it's not just about faith. It's about power, abuse, and the subjugation of women and children. Hi, I'm Christian. Yes, like the religion.
We're talking about Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey, a documentary that exposes the disturbing world of the Fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints under Warren Jeff's control. Hi, I'm Katie.
How did one man gain so much power, and what happens to those who manage to escape? Is religion the problem, or is it something else? And why do people join cults? Hi, I'm Mo.
Welcome to The Disorg, where we unpack big ideas from documentaries and the tangents they lead us down.
If you make it to the green room, let us know. And check out the description to know what we're watching next.
A quick disclaimer on this episode and the content of the docuseries we watched. We'll be discussing topics around cultism, abuse, and sexual assault of minors. So viewer and auditory listeners, discretion is advised. All right, welcome to The Disorg. I how can I make a more stilted intro? Hello. Today we watched what do we call it? Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey, the Netflix documentary series on the FLDS. Keep in mind, this is an intense episode. I'm making this sound less intense than it is. It is actually intense. Like there's some stuff that is like, if you're squeamish, like keep in mind.
Topics at hand are gonna
yeah.
be,
or
be
if you haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But assuming that you have already watched it, but we'll just do like a very quick thing. It's Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey is basically a 4-part docuseries covering a fundamentalist Church of Latter-day Saints group. Church of Latter-day Saints is another name for Mormonism. Fundamentalism is like, I think, a subsect of that. I'm talking like I know everything about this, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Most notably is that they practice polygamy. And in this particular group, what happened under that polygamy umbrella caused a lot of problems, a lot of abuse, a lot of crimes, fun stuff like that. Yeah, we'll get into it. First of all, what'd you guys think? How was it?
I thought it was really well done. I think it dealt with the sensitivity of the topics very, very well. I think I enjoy seeing documentaries of this intense nature, especially people like ex-religion. I love seeing them outside of the situation they were in and seeing how they've transformed and having them talk about it. I think it's extremely brave and it's really cool to witness as a viewer. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought the women who were talking were super powerful, especially because they experienced so many horrible, intense things at such a young age and basically had to rebuild their lives. I think similar in this vein of content is when you see any documentaries about ex-Hasidic people, super similar in terms of like, this is what I went through, this is how I left, like escaping is difficult, etc. So yeah, it was just, I thought it was really exciting and powerful of a testimonial.
Definitely.
Okay, sorry. That was more dramatic than
He's
I
securing his spot in the conversation.
That's not what my intention was at all. First of all, I kept confusing it in my head with like Eat, Pray, Love. So when I saw the actual documentary and I hadn't watched the trailer beforehand, I was like, oh my God, this is way darker than what I was expecting.
I'm dead. Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert is about a woman rediscovering herself, I think after a divorce.
No idea.
That's really funny.
She,
A
like,
different
travels to 3
ballpark
different
entirely.
Completely. Yeah. Sorry.
I think it's after a divorce. I think
so
she
funny.
dates Javier Bardem in the movie. Very different.
Very different.
Very. Yeah.
And I'm
Whoops.
new.
Sweet, eat. different.
I'm super new to like true crime. Last week I was watching all the Murdaugh stuff. That was literally like my first true crime documentary ever. So this is the
Really?
second.
Oh, buckle
And
up,
now
Buster.
I'm starting to like
Oh my
pick
God,
up
Buster.
on the like language that this genre has, things like music choice. I'm seeing some similarities, and also the fact that the last episode is always where like the court case and then the arrest, the conviction, all that stuff happens. I really like it. It's really interesting. For this particular one, a couple things stood out to me. Number one, I thought it did a great job at being respectful to religion as a whole and to the Mormon Church, and especially because the interviewees, a lot of them were from Utah or Texas, and they're religious people. And this documentary showed you that the crimes were not due to religion. It was more a bad person who used religion to justify his wrongdoing. So I thought it like straddled that line well. I also thought like the pacing and the density was very strong. There was a lot of information and like a lot of plot stuff that they just went through pretty quickly. It kept me engaged, and I was taking like a ton of notes throughout like the first and second episode especially. The last thing I'll say is that I think in like the second and third episode there was this lady with red hair, and they got like a
Ruby.
ton. Yes. And they got so many different shots of her that made it like really interesting for me. Like they got her getting a tattoo. They got her like grabbing her goat's head out of the fence on her
having to cut that
farm.
wire. Yeah.
Yeah, they did the house interview, and they also saw a shot, had this shot of her interacting with the other person that they interviewed. This was toward the end of the documentary, and them just having a conversation.
Sorry, our doorbell rang.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Oh, this is
It's
going
a
to be
really
interesting.
loud doorbell. I don't.
Yeah, I thought it was someone like
We
honking.
live in an old house, so I'm not sure what that was about. But sorry for the interruption.
It's
How
Warren
dare
Jeffs.
you.
Don't bring the keys.
Please,
so they...
please, that would be my nightmare. That man, like, he could have done nothing at all, and I would just be so freaked out by his voice, Warren Jeffs,
Oh yeah.
and like
Yeah.
the way he looks. Like he just looks like Slenderman. Like, get away from me. Ew. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's it for me. What about you, Chris?
So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I agree with all the sentiment of like how it cataloged it and the respectful nature that it had in addressing these things. You know, it really relayed the information just as it was being discovered by the people, right? It was very tragic, just like following it along. And, you know, you hear Ruby's story of escaping and then being essentially lured back, and Joe saying that he'll never forgive himself for you know, basically he knew what he was doing, in essence, is what he said. But luring her back, he's like, I'll never forgive myself. I betrayed her. And that whole scenario of like escape to get back, it happens in so many ways, in many different walks of life, in many cults, in many just like abusive situations of getting out and then falling back in. So I thought that aspect was handled really well, and it gave enough breathing room inside of the documentary to like have that emotional hit. This was the first documentary to really make me feel sick, because I actually had no idea what was coming, literally none. And when they were talking about entering that temple at the Yearning for Zion Ranch, you know, I could tell it was building to something, and I was like, what is this going to be? Like, is it going to be some really messed up thing where they're like, I don't know, like I said to Katie, I was like expecting something completely out of left field, of like they had a hospital and they were literally like taking people's organs and selling them on the black market. And I would have been able to handle that better than what we actually saw, which was this unveiling of this back room, you know, this back room where terrible, terrible things happen. And it made me sick. And then it specifically the audio recordings that they played afterwards that were evidence in his secondary trial that really, really like turned my stomach. I found it really interesting how they were presenting the media inside of the documentary changed over the course of time. The beginning couple episodes were this like, they did a good job of replicating like Christian media and like religious media, especially like older religious media, where it's like a picture of the ladies with their nice hair in those like circles that you might see at your grandma's house, and the recorded videos from the clergy, right, and being like, "Hey, everybody, thanks for coming back this Sunday," or what, you know what I mean? Like they had this like nostalgic religious media aspect to them, and then as time went on inside of the documentary, and specifically we started getting away from the cult and to the outside world, that media changed to news reports and direct video taken by the police and things like that. So we saw the shift in that like secondary source, like that secondary thing inside of the documentary, from personal pictures and media created by the Latter-day Saints and just, you know, recordings and stuff, to the media of the Gentiles, essentially, right? The world outside. And I thought that was really interesting. So
Yeah, totally agree on it being like, my thought was it's hard to watch. This whole documentary was really hard to watch. Because it's like sickening. This is like the kind of stuff that is just like the worst thing. Like I think I was honestly, like you said, I was surprised that they even played those audio recordings.
I kind of was too.
Oh, yeah.
I was really surprised that they were able to do that. I was like, I actually don't want to listen to this.
Well, I think that's kind of the important part of like facing this and being truly horrified by it.
Yeah, it's terrible. So it's like, on one hand, it's like, I think you guys are right. Like, it was treated with such respect, with religion in mind and to the victims in mind. But also at the same time, man, it's like there's no way to make that kind of content like stomachable, you know?
Palatable, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just hard. Which just goes to show, like, if it's that affecting to just watch, like how horrible must it have been for the people that it happened to.
Oh yeah.
That it is happening to, probably, most given likely that place is still operating to a degree.
Plus the contrast of what they were expecting to see in Zion. They thought it was some like beautiful, awesome place where it was going to be like heaven. And then they get like worse than hell, what it seems like.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing about all this, is that there's such huge, massive promises that were given by not only by Warren, but also his father.
The intergenerational aspect of it is insane.
It's crazy how much was promised. And like, it just goes to show how, like, when somebody takes control like that over vulnerable people, it is absolute. Like, hardly anybody leaves. It's kind of scary, like, especially like you brought up, like the temple, like they were told that that's heaven. And yet, why didn't the people that got there, who realized, oh, this is not heaven, I'm like doing manual labor right now, why didn't they question it? Well, it's like I don't think a lot of the people, like they said in the interviews, none of them even knew what to question. Like, they didn't even know that they didn't even know that Child Protective Services existed, or that there were places for women to go that have been abused. Like,
woman shelter,
how could they, like, how could they know that you do question it? Like, if you've grown up not questioning it and being told not to question it, and not even having the tools to do that, how could you? It's terrible. Anyway, Chris, you raised your hand.
Yes. And when you were talking about how there's this like overarching, what's the word I'm looking for here? There was this grip of fear on these people because of indoctrination. And from a very young age, they're told, like, you know, if you don't follow these rules and do these things, you're not going to heaven. And when that's all you know, that's a very powerful thing. But then I thought about the other side of that, and this quote came up that I wrote down because it really struck me, was obedience is as fragile as a single hair. And the context of that was one of the survivors was talking about, that was said either by Warren or by his father, whose name escapes me. Rulin. Where like true obedience is so fragile, or it's so like you could be led by a single hair and not break it. Like, you'd feel the tension of the hair. And what particularly struck me about that was how it goes both ways, because we see people breaking obedience, and it's eventually the downfall of Warren. Is that, sure, if you obedience and this fear, right, is real and it's strong and it's powerful, and the fear of breaking that is like it could happen at any point. Like you could not be obedient, the hair could break, and you could suffer the consequences. But it goes both ways, because as a manipulator, as somebody who's trying to get control of these people, his grasp on them is only so powerful. I mean, once they get out, I mean, when Ruby first escaped, they were like freaking the hell out, because that would have been it. It would have been it. So it's just, it was such an interesting phrase, like an interesting thing to say. Obedience is as fragile as a single hair. Because in the context, I bet whoever said that felt really good about themselves, of like, yeah, obedience is, you know, you need to obey me, and this connection that we have is so fragile, and felt so powerful upon saying that. But it's like you could just as easily ruin that control that you have over somebody, and he did for multiple people who got out and then eventually turned on him.
Yeah. I think it's such an interesting thing that they highlight too, the difference between Rulin and when he was alive, and how the FLDS ran their sect, and when he died and Warren took over. And like, I'm not saying that Rulin was necessarily a good guy, but I think the difference in severity, I mean, there was both like marrying of underage girls, there was things happening that should not have been happening, but like the severity, the fear, all of that became so much more intense, because I think Warren was extremely power hungry and really a disgusting person in so many ways, like really sort of cracked down on what they wore, what they did, who they married, like was so manipulative.
When he outlawed Red,
it was so crazy. I'm like,
Wait,
no.
I think I missed that part. He outlawed Red?
He
was
said
like,
he
you
said
can't wear
wearing
red.
red.
Nobody could
Wow.
wear red.
I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah, and so that's
Yeah.
why the women started dressing in certain pastel colors. And
Right,
And
yes.
I think they were only really supposed to wear pastels when they were in Zion, like when they went
got
to
it.
the colony
Yeah.
in Zion, or what the actual like,
The ranch,
what is it called? The
yearning for Zion.
Temple? Oh, sorry.
Y. F.
I thought it was just called Zion.
Yeah, so it was the whole title was Yearning for Zion Ranch, and they just referred to it as Zion. So you would go to Zion, and temple was heaven and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I was going to bring up that I would love for you guys to watch, and I think in watching this docuseries, it reminds me of a couple things, but one thing that I'm referencing that I want you guys to watch is the movie that came out 2 years ago, Women Talking, by Sarah Polley, and it was Oscar nominated, had like really big people in it, Frances McDormand, huge people, Claire Foy, and it was about this Mennonite colony, and basically the women start talking about how they've been experiencing the men in their colony raping them during the night, and basically anytime they've tried to report it, it's been blamed on Satan or hallucinations and things like that, and how like it really highlights the inability for people in these situations to have conversations and not only be believed, but have the actual language to discuss what's happening to them. It also reminds me of a huge tenet of the story of Spring Awakening, and how, I mean, if you guys don't know the story of Spring Awakening, it's like it was a play that was written by a German author, Wedekind, and it was turned into a musical that got really popular in the US. But basically, there's a young girl, and she ends up having sex and not knowing what sex is. It sort of is like unclear if it's like a rape situation, because she doesn't really know what she's doing, so it's not really consensual, and she ends up getting pregnant, but she didn't know what she was doing. She doesn't know why she got pregnant, and it ensues and bad things happen. But sort of the moment when you realize that she doesn't know what's going on and she's putting herself in a very vulnerable position, it really highlights what's so menacing about these situations when we talk about cults or we talk about really extremist religious organizations, is how people don't have the language and the actual knowledge to empower themselves to get themselves out of these situations, and it's why they're so powerful. Just like knowing what sex is, especially some of these girls who got involved in marrying Warren or any of the older men in the community and didn't understand when they were having sex for the first time what they were doing and what that meant and how babies came into the world. It's really disheartening. I think it's probably, I mean, there's so much bad, scary things here that we're talking about, but I think that's like the worst part for me. And I think to really see that, because it's interesting when you guys were like, oh, I was so shocked by the end, I was so surprised. I was like, all the emotions that came up for you guys, I felt like I didn't feel as surprised. I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but I think like it's haunting to hear the audio, but it's like, of course, we're seeing young girls getting married to a much older man and they're having children. What did we think was going to happen?
Yeah.
But
No, totally.
but I think in a movie like Women Talking, I think we really see women like completely, like we see a perspective of someone else being like, what is this and what's happening to me? Like, I don't really understand what's happening. Well, as an audience, especially people who are not in a religious sect, we can see what's going on. We can see it's illegal, not okay in the eyes of the U.S. government. Obviously, I don't agree with child marriage, but I'm just saying in the eyes of our overall national government, it's not okay for girls as young as 12 years old to get married and have sex with men who are of age. But I think in watching this documentary, it was like, okay, I have that full perspective as an outsider. I see everything that's going wrong. So when we get to the end, nothing really surprised me. It's sad and it's disheartening, but it's not surprising. But I think you see something like Women Talking and you really see the perspective of like, what is happening to us?
You know, don't have the language to even begin discussing this.
The language, just really articulating the feeling and the understanding. It's sort of like how women were dealt with hysteria with vibrators, because they were like, they had hysteria. We what should we do? We should vibrate them. And they didn't understand that women having orgasms. Like, there's so many like weird things in history that women experience in terms of like what they're feeling and what they're told they're feeling. So I just wanted to articulate that. Mo, you've been raising your hand. I want to hear what you have to say, of course.
Oh, it's just building on that. There was one case like that in this docuseries where she mentioned, she had no idea what was happening. And what stands out about that is like, this was not by accident. Yeah. Warren made an active effort to prevent women from educating themselves, right? He tore out the pages in the books that talked about reproduction and stuff like that, completely cut out some other books. So like this was all part of the plan of like cutting them off from the outside world, preventing them from learning to empower themselves, and then they could take advantage of them and their ignorance. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was something that I was going to bring up was it struck me as so ironic and hypocritical that your father could be on an oxygen tank, you know, like something that has been developed through technology and like science, and it's part of it's part of healthcare. Like, it's like science, biological health science. And your father would be on that, right? And then you go into this textbook and you start tearing it up. Because it's like, it's selective choices of what to believe and what not to believe. Because, and that's where like the moment that somebody starts editing things like that and saying, you can't look at this and you can look at this, that's how we know you are tailoring this to your manipulation. So that was like one moment of irony. And it makes me think about this other moment of irony that I had after watching the documentary. And it was during my research. So during the documentary, I learned something, which is that at least the Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints sect just like owned everybody and everything inside of their church. If you belong to the church, you were not only was like your business or your property or whatever, like literally you were owned by the church. And when we hit that moment where they said that it was the largest human trafficking and like child labor organization in America, that hit me. I was like, wow. I never thought about it like that. And it explains how Warren was able to finance everything that he was financing. I mean, when you look at pictures of the ranch, that thing is massive. It's literally like, and the lodges that the children and women were staying in were lodges. They were like literal, almost, they were described as being almost like motels or hotels. And that was crazy to me. I'm like, wow, so exploitative, so this and that. I want to share an article that I found during my research.
I want to say real quick while you bring that up, I think another point that they brought up where it's like the rules only apply in certain scenarios was when Warren like went on that trip and was wearing Gentile clothes and was like doing all these things and going off with some of his wives, and he was looking at porn, and I think they were gambling. And I think it's really interesting, a lot of what we're talking about in terms of like knowledge and sharing knowledge and restricting knowledge is something that I've done a lot of research and a lot of watching of things in the Hasidic community, and a lot of the people in that community, if you actually test their levels, as we're talking about like American education, a lot of them can only read at like a second grade level, and like there's so much things that they're just not exposed to. I forget the actual term they use because they don't use Gentile. I think they use, you might remember, it's
Secular.
Secular text. They call it secular text, like if it has nothing to do with religion
And Judaism.
Yeah, like they are basically restricted from reading it. And it's very similar in how these cults that are under the guise of like very restrictive religious sects operate in terms of restricting access to information and language and education. So yeah, Chris, continue.
So this is an article that I found in doing my research for my tangent. They have officially sold, and this was back in 2019, but the entire ranch and all of its buildings and stuff was sold to a like a management company or like a property management company of some kind. So let me just go down here.
It's really interesting that they went to Texas, because I think Utah is such a
So the
cornerstone.
entire ranch has, as you can see here, broad streets, orchards, water treatment. There's a water treatment plant, and then 40 large buildings, including the massive White Temple. So they're intact and they're functional. After years of legal entanglements, the property soon will belong to ETG Properties LLC, and the Dallas area company intends to use it as a military and law enforcement training base. That's how massive this place is. And when you look at pictures of the ranch, it frankly feels more like a military base than it does like
Sorry, that's our
a
cat
temple.
feeder.
Yeah. So,
It's so loud.
the thing that stuck out to me that was really interesting was that the county sheriff, David Doran, says he's the most eager for this story to come to an end because he moved onto the property to maintain it and to make sure that it, nobody was like breaking into it. So after the group left in 2014, Duran and his wife, Lynette, moved into a 2-bedroom apartment on the ranch as caretakers.
I mean, he was the county's liaison. It says right above.
Yes. He was the liaison with the polygamists. And he was probably working on the case and everything. But this was the part that I found to be kind of ironic. He used inmate labor to maintain the property and structures. So for as long as he's been living there, it's a massive, massive property. And the only way that he was able to maintain it was through continued exploitation.
Yeah.
Through inmate labor. So it was just kind of ironic to me that the people of this town and in the documentary, we look at that and we see that exploitation and we're like, oh, that's so terrible. Like, oh my God, these people are being exploited. They don't own their property anymore. They don't get paid for their labor. And yet, once the government takes control or the county took control of that property, they used exploitative labor to maintain it. It's
Right.
it's like, wow. So where does
It's
it stop?
Like
Yeah.
slavery never died. It just keeps evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not under some umbrella of religion, it's under the umbrella of the state. And it's
Yeah,
just
that's
it's
a good way to put it.
and continuing to this space. It's like now it's not even owned by the county anymore. It's owned by this property company who is then leasing it back to the government as a training compound. That's just like, there's so many layers of like weirdness and irony. It's so like the story doesn't just end with these people moving away from it and like the history there. So I just wanted to share that.
I love how it's like, yeah, we got rid of these polygamists. Like, all the bad that's going to happen here is no more. And let's move our military and law compound onto it. And let's use inmate labor that is disguised as a more advanced form of slavery.
Yep.
Like, the evil's still there, brother.
It's just slavery with extra steps.
So crazy. These people are like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
get the bad out of here. And let's bring my version of bad.
So
Thumbs
at the
down.
end, when we saw that that horrible part, like I wouldn't say that I was necessarily surprised because
I
like
was
you
gonna say
said,
that too.
Katie, yeah, like you said, Katie, like it's what was hinted at throughout the episodes of like what Warren was doing with these young women and marrying them. Like obviously that's what was in what we at the as the audience we were inferring that, but I think like when it got really specific in terms of showing us the visuals of like which bed it happened on,
Yeah,
and then
it's haunting.
hearing the audio, I think that made it like feel really real in a way that like I was not prepared for.
The worst part was hearing the amen of the sister wives. So
Yeah.
it's like, not only do we know that this terrible thing is happening, we know that there are people just standing by and watching it. People who could intervene if they really like. But this is like
that didn't even click to
this.
me.
This is where it's like I say
honest.
this with nuance of like, I know that they couldn't intervene in essence, but from this standpoint of like humanity, it's like, I don't know how you could sit in that room and just watch that happen. And I get that it's, you know, it's from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And it's a cult and there's layers and layers and layers of fear and conditioning. But that was the thing that made me feel really sick, is that maybe that's what's so sickening, is that this whole situation was so fucked up that it got to the point where he could have other grown women in a room while he, you know, committed one of the most heinous acts that you can do to another person. And I think maybe I will like claim the one who was surprised by it. And I think that's mainly because I was expecting a twist of some kind, because that's just what I've been conditioned to expect with a documentary, is that like, whoa, and now we have a weird twist. It wasn't just this. And I was just surprised to see that it like got worse than it already was. So
I mean, not to challenge what you're saying, and I wasn't also trying to say that everybody but me was surprised. But I mean, what is, I guess, as a viewer, yes, it gets more graphic, but what do you think when you say got worse?
So we literally knew that young girls were getting like 14, 15, 16. These are children. Were getting married and impregnated. And I think one of the girls, and I don't want to misquote, but one of them said that she had like 3 miscarriages when she was like 14, 15, and 16. Insane, right? It's already that bad. It's already children getting impregnated. And the shock and surprise for me was like that Warren built this temple and it literally was his little private room, you know? And the shock and surprise was that, and again, maybe shock and surprise is not the right word, but it was like, I think from my viewing experience in previous docuseries and true crime series, is that there's a twist. Like, it's not what you would expect in that way. And so I began to expect the unexpected. I was like expecting it to be something awful, but left field, you know? Like they were harvesting people's organs and selling them to maintain his lifestyle
Yeah,
or
something that we were
like
not
something
alluded to.
That's just like the first example that came to my mind. Because like, again, I had no idea what could possibly come next. And then when it was this other awful thing, and again, specifically, there were witnesses, there was an audience to what was happening. That was where I was like,
Yeah.
And
in
she
shock.
was younger than the ages you just mentioned.
and exactly, and she was 12,
like 12
or
or 11.
When
Yeah.
that I only remember Ruby's name for whatever
There's
reason.
Elisa.
Mhm.
And the other woman's name I can't think of right now. The blonde
But
woman.
she just, one of them said, it's like, I recognized her as this 11-year-old girl. That was where it was like,
No, because she heard the audio.
yeah.
Yeah.
She recognized the voice of the
Yeah.
11-year-old girl.
I think I didn't internalize that there were other women there, but I think even
Yeah.
hearing that, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's because I've consumed a lot of cult content, but I'm like, it feels like the very sort of like stereotypical steps of what happens, like the indoctrination, the like locking the people into the one location, all of this stuff comes out in a court case. Either there's like a standoff or the guy gets arrested, etc. Like, yeah, and I hope I'm not invalidating the feelings on the topic.
not at
I
all.
think,
Not
I
at
think
all.
we watched Waco recently,
Mm.
and I think Waco, that documentary is very different. And it's like they engage in a standoff, and like the U.S. government is outside their compound, but like he's having sex with all of these women, and like all of them are obsessed with him, and they all have their special moment with whatever his name is. I can't think of his name right now. The guy who's the head of Waco and their whole cult. But yeah, I don't know. Personally, I was like,
I mean, well, I get it, like par for the course. You know,
Yeah.
when men are manipulating women and controlling them, it just seems like it always ends up in the exact same spot.
yeah.
So-
yeah. And Grant, you had your hand raised.
And also, I just wanted to say we've hit
Yeah.
33 minutes.
Yeah, I did want to move into tangents, but there was a couple things I wanted to say before we do that.
Yeah, yes, please.
The first thing was, it wasn't that, like, I was there that the sexual abuse was happening. Like, I already knew, like, I got it. Like, I'm like, yep, that's terrible. I hate this for you. This is absolutely horrible. And it made me sick to my stomach just to hear them talk about it. But then it was another level when the audio recordings were playing, because it was like just a step away from being in the room.
Totally.
And I hated the energy that was around that, and that's why I felt sick to my stomach.
No.
On a lighter note, I did want to say, while I think this place should probably be bulldozed, do I think the visuals of some of the floors are pretty cool?
Dude, this is liminal spaces.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
literally the back rooms. It's
Yeah,
literally...
I was looking at some of those hallways. I was like, genuinely, like, if it didn't have, all this, like, it should be not around anymore. But if it didn't have that, I would want to explore this. Like, it has such a good atmosphere for liminal spaces,
Wait, hold on. I'm
so
gonna. Can I
creepy.
share my screen?
It
a bit?
is. Yes, absolutely.
This is going to
If
be
you're-
clipped out of context, and it's going to be hilarious.
If you're okay with it, you've actually led directly into my tangent.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
You've activated his
Grant,
trap card.
Which, speaking of,
my trap
speaking
Grant,
of,
you had other stuff you wanted to say.
Yes.
yes. So, but I just wanted to say I would love to explore that. It looked really cool if it didn't, was what it was. But for our audience who don't know, this segment we're going to be going into what we call our tangents, basically stuff that is like second step. What we first thought of while we were watching the documentary, whether it's an idea that it reminded us of, or if we had a question about something that happened that we wanted to explore more about. It's just the next step of a more deeper dive into concepts that we thought of while watching.
Good
And Chris,
explanation, Grant.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. So first and foremost, sorry for our audio listeners. This is going to be a very visual portion here because I'm going to be talking about architecture, and specifically architecture of the religious variety of churches, temples, things like that, design philosophy, and things like that. So, but the first thing I wanted to say was that this shot in particular, when I saw it, it was so alienating to me because I'm like, this looks like a Blender render. Like this looks like something that you would make freshman year computer graphics, class, with like the light coming through at the end of the hall and bouncing all over the place. It's like, oh, look at my ray tracing that I did in this thing. So that was I wanted to point that out.
I get like open house photos.
Yeah, it very much like
it's like, here is this beautiful hallway, and you're like, why are those curtains there? That's kind of weird. I don't think there's windows there.
So yes, my tangent is specifically on, and I wrote down some notes here. Side note, I did watch the documentary while a little high. I did take half an edible, which did not help my stomach churning.
Oh, I bet.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you're like,
but
so surprised.
One note that I wrote down was completely unrelated to the documentary, and I was thinking about like our skin and getting a cut, and I was like, my God, we're just millions of tiny tubes.
True story.
All of us.
I mean, yeah.
Every part of our body is just millions of tiny tubes, even your neurons. You know what I mean? Like your brain is tiny tubes, your skin is tiny tubes.
Punching on Katie.
We're just tiny tubes.
He woke up this morning at like 11 o'clock and was like, so... Oh, wait, or did you say to me yesterday when I came home from work?
It was last night. No, it was last night.
Okay, so I come home from work. It's been a long night. I'm tired. He's like half asleep, and he's like, so I'm kind of coming out of my like little high stupor, and like I had this thought, and he like opens his notes app and reads this to me, and I was like, yeah.
We're just millions of tiny tubes. We're just tubes.
It's all tubes, bro.
Man.
No, there's...
Anyway. So tangent off the tangent. But
is it a tangent, or is it just a random fucking thought that has nothing to do with anything?
I think
so
it's great.
It
sounds like a video
architecture.
platform for hobbits. Tiny
It's okay.
tube.
One time I was high and I was like, maybe I should join the military. So, I mean, sometimes our brains take us
That's
to
the
very
same thought as
strange
it's all
places.
tiny tubes. So
Exactly.
It is. If you really break it down, it is.
Cool. So to get back on track.
Anyway,
Please
cool.
help us.
Religious architecture is actually really interesting to me in many ways. Churches from their earliest conceptions were designed to be reminders, like and just in general, whenever you enter a temple or a religious sacred space, like it is a reminder of what you are there for, right? You're there to worship. You're there to experience the word of God, of holiness, of all of these things. And you can see that reflected in the design philosophy of churches and their architecture. Vaulted ceilings, like massive. You look at cathedrals, right? That they literally have a canopy, a firmament, where that is supposed to represent heaven. And all of the accoutrement and everything inside of a church is designed to kind of like lead your eye upwards, or specifically kind of to look around you and take in the various stories, right, that are told through sculpture or stained glass, all of these things, right? But it all serves a purpose, and that's to make you, feel awe in the presence of this thing, right? So we can see that in a lot of churches, and you know them. Notre Dame is like a major one. Where did Michelangelo paint the ceiling? There was the creation of Adam.
Is that Versailles?
I think so.
I don't know.
But
I should know this.
Double check.
Let me look it up.
Sure. But like things like that where it's, it's very ornate and it's very holy. Mormon temples are not unlike that. They borrow a lot of their architecture from churches, as we know. Oh, the 16th chapel.
Not 16, 16.
The 16th. There's the other
The
15
16th.
have never been found. But
That
yeah,
is so funny.
Mormon temples took on a lot of these design these design philosophies. The very first two temples were Kirtland and Nauvoo. I don't really know, but those were in the 1800s. And you can see them in these images here, but for our audio listeners, I'll describe them. The Kirtland Temple, I believe, was the first one. Let me just triple check. because the first one was in Ohio, and I can't.
Kirtland.
Yeah. So the Kirtland Temple was the first one, and it just kind of looks like your standard church. There's a steeple that's like a very high point where there probably were bells. There's large windows to let
Can I go
in
up
light.
for 2 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
Was it saying something about why it's called temples? I think it did. It
Oh,
said
I didn't-
restore the practice of temple worship because, I mean, it's really interesting. I think in a lot of religions that are like not Judaism, I think of temple as temple's not really the word that is used in Catholicism, in Christian religion. So it's interesting to see the word temple used here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm thinking like Buddhist or Hindu.
Exactly. It's a different kind of
Buddhist temple, and then
worship.
Islam is mosques.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But regardless, they were taken after churches. You can see the Salt Lake Temple here. It very much looks like a cathedral. It has that similar Gothic influence, right? The Nauvoo, I don't know how to pronounce that. Almost looks like a courthouse in essence. It has much more kind of like, I think it was Second Empire was the actual architectural form that it takes on. But they seem like classic, more classic buildings and things like that. And they have a wide variance in terms of their architectural style. So there are no spires. There are much more like modernist takes on it. But they all still kind of have this similar vibe, which is that, and this is what I read in a Reddit comment, is that this is supposed to be heaven on earth. Like this is supposed to literally be a representation, or once the rapture comes, this is your heaven. You have to be here when the rapture comes, because that is, that's where you go to heaven. And it literally is your heaven. It becomes your heaven. So it's meant to literally represent and be heaven as we understand it.
I didn't realize they had temples in other countries.
Mm-hmm.
Not like temples in general. I mean like Mormon temples.
But even beyond just as we, the classic churches that we understand, all of these ones here in particular. So for the audio listeners, it's hard to even describe the exact style, because this almost looks like Taj Mahal-esque with these pools that lead up to this large building, and it's very imposing, and it sticks out.
Hawaii.
It sticks out on the landscape, and that's strange. And most of them are like a stark white to show purity, but it also, like, how often do you see stark white in nature? Like it's so strange to see that. But the other aspect that I found to be really interesting, and here's just a few more examples of.
This is really interesting, by the way.
Yeah, that's why I really dove into this. A few more examples again for audio listeners. We have one that I don't. This almost looks like a skyscraper. It almost looks like the Empire State Building slammed, or like a Chrysler building. But like there's gardens all around it. Like it's usually like a very well kept. Here's the Garden of Eden type situation. Like here's all this beautiful nature and the building, the temple of heaven, right? And this stark white and often gold accents. This is a much more. It almost looks like a standard church, or like a school, like a Catholic school. But they're all very imposing, and they all stick out on the landscape, and there's nothing else around them. For a while, and this was the design philosophy for cathedrals as well, was build it as high as you can so that you can always see it, no matter where you are in the town.
So it's closer to God, right?
And so it's literally closer to God.
Wait,
and then,
the one before that you just showed, is that the Hawaii one, but like closer to the main
that's
building?
a good question. I actually don't know. Looks like it. I think you might be right.
Or at least super similar.
Yeah, they're very. No, there's slight differences.
Oh,
But it's
you're
obviously a
right.
similar design philosophy between these two.
But yeah, I had the same thought of like Taj Mahal.
But beyond just
Vibes.
the exterior, the interiors reflect this idea as well, right? This is heaven, so the interior should also be like nicely adorned, and you see a lot of white and gold. White for purity, and gold being the afterlife. Like there's so much talked about, like the streets of gold. Creed has that one song where they talk about golden streets, but it's just everywhere in religious literature. So I found another website where I was like, well, I want to go like inside a temple because I've never actually gone inside of a temple. And I found a fantastic breakdown from the Church of Latter-day Saints on all of the various rooms inside of a temple and what they mean. So we have fundamentally this is a sacred space and it should feel as though it's a sacred space. But normally when you enter a temple, there is an entrance area that's supposed to be public facing. Whenever there's a renovation or a new one is completed, it's actually open to the public. So anybody can come in and just take a look. And they're invited to enter the temple.
Looks like a hotel.
It has so for our audio listeners, the entryway, it does kind of look like a resort hotel lobby. Mm-hmm. There often is also a front desk, but it's called the recommend desk. And it's this point that you have to pass before you can actually enter the church. The recommend desk is, as you can read here, it says, once dedicated, entrance to the temple is reserved for members of the church who have committed to live the gospel of Jesus Christ and are ready to participate in further sacred ordinances. And also just keep in mind here, the language is super interesting and weird about how they talk about these rooms and their religious practice. It's ordinances as opposed to I don't know, what was it, a preaching or something like that, or sermons. There we go. Ordinance versus sermon. It's interesting to me that they would choose that.
It's more of a dedication of the individual members to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what, at least growing up, that's what we called Christianese.
Sure.
Having grown up in a Christian community, that's what we ended up calling it.
Christianese.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But as you can see too, and for our audio listeners, the overall design philosophy inside of these spaces it's inviting, but it still has, I would say, religious and church-like aspects to it. Stained glass, marble, images of the stories of Christ, religious iconography, things like that. Once you enter a temple, you have to change. You have to change into your temple clothing, which is all white, stark white, so everybody is equal and looks the same.
Sorry, can I bring something up really quick? There's something that bugs me go up about the recommend card. It reminds me of when people say your permit for driving, but sometimes they call it your permit. I'm like, why are we using these verbs as nouns? The recommend desk, and you have to show a recommend card
instead of a card of recommendation.
Yeah, sorry, the grammar in me is
I know, it's weird. It's the practices and the way that they
called a recommend.
Yeah.
What?
It's really weird.
Sorry, that just
how
bugs
dare
me.
you?
But now this was the one that kind of hit me. So the place where they have their ordinances and their sermons, otherwise known as, is called the instruction room.
The way you said that was the instruction.
But that's just such a in my head, that's a weird way to put it. It's this is not church. This is school. This is where you get your instructions, or it's something else. That doesn't feel like church to me as somebody who was raised Lutheran.
Right. It feels explicit, right? It's imagine it was called the indoctrination room,
Exactly.
Yeah,
it feels very on the nose of this is where you're receiving what we have prescribed to you. This is the instruction room where you get your ordinances and your prescriptions. It's this does not feel holy. This feels
dystopian.
Calculated to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's very white, that room too. It's very white and.
But again, there's still I'm going to keep coming back to this. It still feels at least somewhat church-like with the pillars and the tall ceilings and the stained glass and this kind of altar here. For the audio listeners, this instruction room has rows of chairs, and there is a very obvious altar for where the prophet or whoever, I don't know who actually gives sermons or ordinances in the Mormon church, will stand and deliver their ordinances. But there still seems to be this structure, right? And then, so this is why you see multiple levels inside of a temple, is that as you move up, you also literally get closer to God. And there's two kingdoms. There's the terrestrial kingdom, which is earth, and then there's the celestial kingdom, which is
the extraterrestrial.
And the extraterrestrials. And that's where that one guy with the finger goes.
What?
E.T.
What?
Oh.
Come on, get with it.
He didn't get it either.
Well, you're all slow. You just don't get it. Anyway.
With the finger. That's very creepy.
But you move up
with
and
the
you
finger.
enter the celestial room, which is supposed to be their glimpse into heaven. And this is actually this is basically just like where you go after you have church. And it's where you can pray and reflect and all this stuff, but it's supposed to be like a very comfortable space, and it's supposed to feel heavenly, and it's and how it's displayed. But again, I'm going to maintain this. It still feels somewhat church-like. You've got these large stained glass windows, and there's, you know, couches and things like this. This reminds me of my church that I grew up going to in many ways. And then finally, you have the sealing room. And this was one, and this is spelled SEALING, the sealing room.
By the way,
this is
audio
what I
listeners,
don't
this
get.
is why you got to get fucked, because you just got to get some eyes. You have to like watch this because
Yeah.
there's so much visual
If you're
stuff
an
going
audio
on.
I'm
You
doing
don't
my
have eyes,
best to like
clearly.
try to like articulate what this all is.
No, you're doing great. I just have to
Yeah.
like keep up my rapport with the video watchers.
Yeah, exactly. The elite video
Of
watchers.
bullying people into watching the visual.
But Katie, you had something to chime in with?
No, weren't we talking about this? The ceiling room? I don't understand.
Yeah.
this.
So, and this is kind of goes to show that there are so many levels to Mormonism that we just do not understand of their functions. In the same way that like a non-religious person going to a church service is like, wait, why is everybody going up there now? Wait, what is this section? I don't understand.
Why are we
we're-
standing now?
Exactly. Like, why do we have to stand now as opposed to not earlier? But anyway, so the final room, major room inside of a temple, which is, I believe, attached to the celestial room often, is the sealing room. And what this is it's literally a space where the prophet or whoever has the power in this temple seals families together or seals people together. And if I remember my reading correctly, it's literally so that people are connected in the afterlife, right? So it's like you can even get married to somebody in the Mormon church, but unless you are sealed together, you're not going to be together in the afterlife. In the same way that if you're not sealed to your children, right? So this is why it says here in this this article from the Church of Latter-day Saints, in a sealing room, a bride and a groom kneel together at an altar to be sealed for this life and for eternity. This ordinance is also sometimes referred to as temple marriage or eternal marriage. Children born or adopted into these eternal marriages can also be sealed to their families forever.
I wonder if that's why. So I want to bring this up later in my tangent, but there was recently a show that came out on Hulu called The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. And they had this whole event, and it was one family that's like it's like this whole group of wives that are on TikTok, and they talk about all these things going on and how they want to be like modern Mormon women in Salt Lake. And there was this one family, and they had a baby blessing, and that was something they hosted at their house and not at the temple. I wonder if that's somehow related, the baby blessing and the sealing, even though the sealing probably takes place at the temple. I don't know if like
It might be
look,
related.
Baptistry blessings for ancestors.
Yes, and so they also
here we go.
And so again, for the audio listeners, the room itself has an altar in the center, and then it's surrounded by chairs, but it's a very nicely ornamented room, and there's lots of crown moldings, and again, feels kind of church-like. And then they also have their pool for baptism, which is not uncommon, where you actually get fully immersed in water
Whoa.
as opposed to just having droplets of water or slightly immersed in water.
Those are oxen.
So yeah, it's a big tub of water, and then there are marble oxes all around the tub. So this is all to say, like, they still follow, these temples still follow this major idea, which is to, when you enter these spaces, it's to be connected to and reminded of the holy. But going further than that, I found a fantastic reading. So beyond these like face value meanings that we kind of all understand, is that it's supposed to remind you of God and be close to heaven and all of these. The fundamental purpose of church architecture is to fill anyone who would enter it or see it with a sense of the sublime. And that's a very critical word.
To quote Ken from the Barbie movie, sublime.
He was talking about church.
It's true.
Yeah.
I found this article, more just like a writing from the imaginative conservative. Jake Scott wrote this in 2021, and there was this section that I wanted to share. It is when we enter the church, however, that we truly feel that sense of awe at its zenith. Whenever I walk into a church or cathedral built in the classical or vernacular styles, so like a classic cathedral, something like Notre Dame or the Sistine Chapel, he says, I always notice how cold it is. My breath coalesces in the air before me, and the faint breeze that comes from somewhere tickles the back of my neck. I find myself wrapping my coat tighter and burying my hands in my pockets. At the same time, the hollow falls of my footsteps reverberate into the chill air around me, and even the slightest noise is carried away across the pews, in such a way that I find myself whispering to the church warden as I take the pew sheet. I strain to see the pew street in the close darkness as I sit on the hardwood seats and compare it to the dusty prayer and hymn books to find that week's verses. Some might think this description a negative one. Indeed, it does not sound comfortable, but this is not the point. When entering the church, we are overawed by the surroundings, all of which together to create a sense of smallness in us, a feeling of not inferiority, but of human scale, a scale that must be remembered in the face of God. Some commenters have gone so far as to say that this discomfort is the point. And then
it says down
this
there,
is the key. All of this, however, does something more for the Christian soul. It fills one with a sense of the sublime. This concept, the sublime, is uniquely misunderstood in the philosophy of aesthetics, but is the most accurate description of the feeling I have at the threshold of a church. In the mid-18th century work entitled A Philosophical Inquiry into the Origins of Our Ideas of the Sublime and the Beautiful, Edmund Burke wrote that we could understand the sublime as something akin to pleasurable terror. What is seemingly paradoxical, what this seemingly paradoxical term actually means is that terror is the strongest emotion which the mind is capable of feeling. It paralyzes us when we experience it in its purest form. The mind is so entirely filled with its object that it cannot entertain another. And so this is something that Christianity talks about, right? When humans see angels, the angels have to literally say, "Be not afraid," because it's just, you're filled with such awe and also terror at what you're seeing because you don't understand it. So all of that
Interesting.
being said,
It's a really good comparison.
I want to share my final piece of this, which is, I would say that sublime is what I felt, a sense of the sublime, upon looking at the temple, the actual temple on the ranch. So for our video watchers, I just want to let you know that I am going to be going through some of the pictures that they showed in the Netflix documentary. And some of them in context are kind of hard to look at. So it's just a content warning. For our audio listeners, I'm now showing pictures of the ranch and the temple on the ranch to kind of talk about what I'm getting at. So the first thing that I like when in looking at this is that he really leaned into castle. A lot of churches took up what was called, let me just get my exact term
What
here.
happens when it rains? Aren't those open windows?
No, those I think those are paned windows.
Oh. They look like a castle.
Yeah, so
Just peek out.
Somebody made it in Minecraft.
castellated.
Oh my God,
That's what it looks like anyway. No,
Yeah,
that's what it
so-
looks like.
They didn't make it in Minecraft. They just said it looks like it was made in Minecraft.
Oh, I thought someone recreated it in Minecraft.
No,
That's
I'm
what
sure
I mean.
somebody probably did, but
But churches in general and a lot of Mormon churches leaned into a castellated structure, which means that it has battlements and it has high turrets and things that you would see on a castle. But there's no nuance to this one. It's just like what you would make at the beach if you were a child. And I think it really, really sits inside of who Warren was in regards to everything that he took from church and what it was supposed to mean and putting his imprint on it. I mean, it's so basic.
Yeah.
But there's this like obelisk. It's like unnerving to look at. What's there was an exact word that I came up with to describe its style.
Do you want me to go to the second one?
Monolithic. It's very, very monolithic. So I just wanted to point that out.
This looks like alpha gameplay. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yes.
before any polishing is done of any
Before any more
3D
assets are
asset.
loaded into it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It just, and it still accomplishes its goal of like sticking out. But the other thing is like, it doesn't follow the other tenets of the design, right? A lot of these spires have, I forget, just like a statue of somebody blowing a horn, and he chose to have this extremely bright light on top of it. If you can see here, that is
it's a light.
that is just one big powerful light right at the top of the highest
Oh,
point
yeah.
that shines down.
creepy.
There
right?
was
So
a
it's
moment
like-
in the documentary where okay, you got
So
it.
this is the image from the documentary. So you can see they're all standing outside at night, and this like beaming bright light. It's like ghastly is the best way that I can describe it. It's really harsh. But I also just wanted to give a picture for scale. So if we assume that these men are like
Hello,
5'9"
Berlin Wall.
or something, these walls are minimum like 12 feet, I would say. Minimum. And that's just the stone, not even the gate on top of it. So for the audio listeners, I'm showing an image of the walls that are literally surrounding this basically castle type structure. I mean, there's a reason why it's now a military base. This is basically built for that. But these are 12-foot high walls, right? None of the other pictures that I showed of these churches really have walls surrounding it. And in fact, they didn't do the thing that they said that they always do with the Mormon church, which is after completion, opening it to the public. They didn't do that. They just completed it and built the walls around it. They built a compound. And this image is from the documentary, and it shows the police entering the building and they're walking up the steps. And this was probably the eeriest image for me because it's just so stark and empty. There's only one guy walking up. And all of the pictures, it's just these rooms that are massive, massive rooms, just very, very empty.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go in, I don't know what this room is, because it's not
Creepy.
it's not the
It's like
instruction
a
room.
courtroom.
It almost looks like a courtroom. I don't know how to describe this, but I just want to note this doesn't feel like a church. Again, the design philosophy is not there. This is exclusively Warren's image of heaven on earth, because that's what a temple is supposed to be, a representation of heaven. And we're kind of seeing all of these different details twisted, right? The instruction room is probably the closest to a more standard place. But as you can see, so for the audio listeners, it's just rows of chairs with some overhead, like terrible overhead lights, blank walls, except for one that shows the terrestrial heaven. But it feels
It's a
more
big
like
mural.
yeah, it feels more like a courtroom. And the hallways are all very stark and curtained off. And then as we just continue to go upwards to his, and I think this we have to start recognizing is that this is Warren's image of heaven, is that it doesn't feel like heaven. It's stark. It's open. Where are people supposed to sit? You know, what is this? So we're looking at this image of this is the celestial room.
Did they take stuff out?
Maybe that it's very possible that we're
Potentially.
looking at post extraction.
I feel like they would have to. This is just too fucking
But
weird.
even still, like the normal things that you would expect to see are just not there. The walls are so stark. I mean, they even said in the documentary, no, they said in the documentary that when they went in, the walls were just bare and white. So this is as it was when
Yeah,
they
but,
walked
like, I
in.
mean
Maybe
actual
there was like
furniture.
furniture, but it just feels so sterile and lifeless, you know?
Yeah.
Even this would be technically part of the ceiling room. So it's that curtained off area. And then his bed, right? That bed was essentially the altar that we saw in the ceiling room.
It literally reminds me of a casket,
Yeah.
like a raised casket.
So it was just as I went down,
Does not look comfortable.
as I went down this rabbit hole or my tangent of architecture and all of these various ways that it's informed by the religion, I realized I'm like, there's this twisted aspect to Warren where it's like he obviously knows what all these things mean, but this church, this temple, it was made for Warren and nobody else. And that's just crazy to me.
And like that is, you're talking about the architecture of it, but I think it's also symbolic of his the religion that he built, right?
Yeah.
It's a fork of Mormonism, but he twisted it so much to meet his own needs and make it uniquely his, just to get whatever his twisted goals were, that it's nothing like the original, which is why like this documentary is not discrediting Mormonism. And it's like just as much of a twist on it as the architecture is on the temples that you were talking about.
Yeah. Honestly, this kind of goes into my tangent, but I don't want to like step on your toes.
Go, Grant, do it.
So, on the topic of architecture, somewhat. I think
Jeffrey Epstein's Island. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
Oh my God.
No. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the show Severance, but
I've watched the first, maybe
I've
the
never seen
second
it.
episode.
watch the show, Chris. You will love it.
It's based off a book that
It's
we
very
have.
good.
Oh yeah, okay.
Super, super good. However, as you'll probably notice, as I start to show you, sorry, audio listeners, there's a lot of visuals this episode. Come on, audio listeners.
Get onto the video.
Yeah, it's the liminal space.
But this is Severance. Like, I don't really want to get into like the story of it, but there's a lot of like cult like crossover in that show, and like it's sterile and it is like lifeless and looks like are people supposed to live here? Like, why is it you get this feeling of like, ugh, you know, even though there isn't anything, like it's perfectly well lit, it like looks fine, but it just doesn't feel right.
It just looks like the bare minimum that a space needs to be. It's
Right.
strange.
Yeah, it's uncanny. Liminal is a good way to put it. But also that like in that show, it's like it's all about a company or whatever, but their handbook is literally designed to look like a Bible, like the same kind of pages, the same kind of binding. And this isn't the only example that I was able to come up with. Like, I also recently finished watching the show Silo. Great show if you guys haven't seen it. Really, really good.
Haven't seen it.
Rebecca Ferguson. It's an Apple TV original.
Love.
Very good.
Love her.
Very, very good. I finished that, and how much that show also has crossover. I don't know how much is intentional, but like Warren, I mean, he put cameras all over his compound, like cameras everywhere.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were monitoring everybody.
Everything. And that's the same thing in Silo. Sorry, there's some spoilers here, but there's like, I don't want to like give everything away, but there's cameras all over. And that show's supposed to be more like Big Brother than it is supposed to be like a religious cult. But still, like, it's so interesting, like, when you think of control and when you think of, like, keeping people in one spot or keeping them under your rule, like, the tactics that cultists use are pretty uniform, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty much always like, oh, how do we get a society where people are, like, underneath a regime? Look at cults. Like, just look at the techniques that they use, and then you could just, like, I mean, that's how they do it. Not only do you have to, like, you don't really have to do anything else, like, because it's proven. It's not like a what would happen. It's like, it has happened. It does happen.
It's very well documented.
Yes. And I was curious if you guys had any, like, examples that you could think of, like, other pieces of media where you've noticed, like, oh, that's from a cult. Like, they clearly, like, took inspiration from cultists. Because I thought that might be interesting.
I think it's hard for me to necessarily say it's from cults, because maybe like religions and other groups that are not religions or cults have like similar structures and techniques to like make people feel like they're part of a community, which I think is what like the overall thing is. But yeah, I would say like frats do some similar things.
Totally.
And then
Totally.
even
That's a
companies,
fantastic one.
like corporations that have, you know, return to office, come live in the same, like spend time in the same building. We all have to be together. And then like
Now
Amazon,
we're family.
yeah, and Amazon monitoring like all their employees down to every second.
Even like company swag, if you think about
Oh
it.
yeah. Well, I always thought that
This
even
goes into my tangent, so I won't say too
like
much.
school spirit sometimes made me feel like y'all are like way too into this. Like
Colleges,
way,
I think.
this is still an institution. Like it's not like, I don't know, it's not a club. Like you can go be a part of a club, but like the moment that you have something that's like an overarching institution that you are like fully in, like I will be at all of these things, these like school events or the whatever. It's like, I got school spirit. I'm like, okay.
I
Let's
think
back
when
it up a
people
little bit.
take it from I also think it's really creepy when people take it from that to like their companies that they work at. Like what they've started doing in startups and stuff is when people are like really jazzed about the company they work for. I always think that's really suspicious.
I always found our all hands kind of weird. Early on, especially as like
I
during
don't
the
know how to
hop-in
say
days.
it, but
Yeah.
No, we thought the same thing. Like
I
all these-
logged into Hopin. I mean,
We'll bleep it
leave
out.
that
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
For,
I
for,
logged into
for listeners,
Slack.
we worked at the same
we
company.
all worked at the same company.
I
Unnamed
logged into
company,
Slack
but
and I was like, this is fucking creepy. Like there was shit on Slack where people were like, oh my god, I love you so much. Oh my god, I'm so happy about being. No,
Yeah.
no, sign of creepy shit.
Yeah.
Get
But
a
I think
life. Sorry.
what in that way, but no, Mo, you kind of actually touched on something, which is like people want to be involved in something. They want to feel
Yeah.
like they're a part of something.
Community.
And it's the exact same thing that where Katie's getting like antsy because that's literally her tangent.
No. Yes, it is my tangent, but I had another thing that I
Yeah,
thought of.
but it's like that is the exact same kind of person, but just in a more vulnerable state,
Yeah.
who would find themselves attracted to or involved in or trapped in a cult.
yeah.
I think my example would be, and I think with the popularization of the internet and social media, it's gotten much more extreme.
Bless
you.
you.
Like fan bases for
sweet,
celebrities.
Mo.
Yeah, stands.
Yes, stands is huge. I think especially musicians, people are like so like it's insane the way that. And I mean, I think it's really profitable for artists. It's like a really cool thing to be a popular artist in this day and age, but it can also be really scary because people really kind of latch on and go really crazy. Any sort of fan pages. I think if you're like a fan of anything, I think especially in social media, I've noticed this is like in social media, it's very easy to feel like when you log in, you feel very alone because you're like, everybody's a part of something and not me. I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I
Totally.
feel this way a lot of time with social media. So I think because of that feeling, a lot of people have really cranked up on like identifiers for themselves. Like I am a fan of Sabrina Carpenter and I'm obsessed with anime and I wear a ton of pink and I do this and I'm like really into this Reddit community. Like there is like because of social media and because we have become so pulled apart from each other and so connected in such like a really unnatural way, I think people have really kind of locked into these different communities as a way to identify themselves and to find community that isn't really like a real like walk out of your house and say hi to your neighbor sort of thing. Like you are part of
Yeah.
something because you're sort of manufacturing an artificial bond with something.
Parasocial.
Yeah, that's interesting that
Yes.
you mentioned that it's about feeling a part of something because that is kind of how they get you
Yeah.
when it comes with cults. Because I think there is a distinction, right? Because like everyone wants to be a part of something, they want to feel a part of a community and have friends and like be a part of something they find important. Cults do that. That's like there isn't 100% wrong about like wanting to have a community. Like that's how they get people in. They target another movie or another piece of media that does this, but way more explicitly is Midsommar. Is like these people who are in such vulnerable positions that could really use support, and they go like, that's an in. We're going to use that vulnerability and get them in our system. That's like how cults do their thing.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, like seeing with this one in particular, with Keep Sweet, like it's religion. Religion is the vulnerability. Like people, and that's why it's like it can be dangerous. Like religion isn't dangerous inherently, but it is a great like I don't know way for cults to get people because it's about their existence. It's existential.
And their devotion to
Right. And people generally when they get this like a big death in the family, or you come to terms with your mortality because you got a new disease or something big in your life that makes you question things, is when a cult leader can go, I have the answer. And then but not only do I have the answer, there's a bunch of people that are here going to support you when you come and transition with us. We'll help you come together. And I think Chris said this. I don't remember who said this, but isn't it always terrible, like how it always ends up, these cult leaders, it always goes to sexual abuse. Like that's the end goal.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. It's terrible
Well, I
how they
think that's-
use something like that.
I think that's a way to really sort of make people submit and get a lot of shame and not feel like they can speak up. It's a really great silencer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And like Severance is an interesting example, like how it's just people, okay, that's spoilers, but like it's about limiting outside information as well.
Yeah.
So like you get people to come in who are vulnerable, who need help. This isn't the place they should get the help, but they are needing help, and this place is offering help, and then they come in, and then all of a sudden all the outside world is limited. Like with this as an example of Keep Sweet, it's like they didn't even really know who the president was. Like all outside anything was just completely limited.
God, I know.
Like they were looked at as like the chosen people. Like they were the select few that would get to go or whatever. Like that was kind of the vibe that community had. And so they had a completely distorted view of the rest of the world because of the control in which the kind of information that they had. And then as that goes, it gets more difficult because the children are born into it, and then they don't even need to be vulnerable. They're just already there. And then you could just indoctrinate them right away. And it just gets harder and harder to leave. But I thought it was interesting that, like, at least a lot of the stuff, maybe this is enlightening on my background, but I found that I really like shows, movies, and stuff like that where there is like this like clear but mysterious kind of like power that's taking control over people, and it's about like how do you dismantle that? How do people get out of it? Like how do these mysteries kind of come about? That's why I'm like really loving Silo or Severance. Those shows are really interesting. And how like it's terrible, and I don't want cults to happen anymore. Hot take. But it is interesting. It is really interesting that like pieces of media take inspiration from that kind of thing as like a plot device. I don't know. I didn't really have a point to that. I just thought it was interesting.
I have a
No,
point.
that is interesting.
Go for it.
I think those things that you pointed out that all these like cults and other groups have in common is because they work. You know what I mean? Like if groups didn't use any of those techniques, I think they would just die off because community members would not be engaged. And so the only groups that are left, you know, religions have been around for thousands of years. Some of them are still around. And like the reason they're around is because they've done such an effective job at making people feel like they should be coming back into the community and stuff like that. And also like the vulnerability thing, like you said, like once they're born into it, they continue to be vulnerable. And the religion, well, the cult in this case that we were talking about, perpetuates that vulnerability by making their like they acculture these people, right? They make them dress a certain way, learn certain things, don't learn other things. And all of those things make it hard for them to adjust to a different world, so that even when they do escape for a moment, they're like, I would never fit in here. And so it makes it feel less possible for them to ever imagine a world outside because they are not equipped with the culture, the behavior, the habits, the language even, or the dressing habits or knowledge to be able to like adapt outside. Chris, go ahead.
No,
So
yeah,
true.
you hit basically everything I was going to add to it. I think I read somewhere too in my research, it's like we have to remember that also Mormonism is a very new religion. And in terms of its like, you had said something, Mo, in there that reminded me of this too, where Christianity has existed for thousands of years, and a lot of major religions have existed for thousands of years. And so they've kind of had time to like really work out a lot of their paradoxical teachings and like things like that. Like it's the Christian lore and everything is very not like sound, but it interconnects in a way that like you can follow it in many ways. Whereas Mormonism too, it's like even the inception of Mormonism sounds a bit ridiculous, and the rules and regulations that were born as time has gone on seemed to just come about. You know what I mean? And it just, what does that serve? You know, I won't go so far as to say that it's like the inception of Mormonism is like a cult in essence, but I think it's almost more. I won't say that. I was almost going to say that it's more ripe for abuse because of how new it is and how people can just like influence it. But to a certain degree, I mean, Warren was able to literally say, I am my father incarnate, and people just went along with it and believed it as part of the religion. I feel like, you know, if you went to your, if you went to church one day and your pastor was like, I am Jesus Christ, you'd be like,
See,
but I don't know that I could necessarily say that because it's a different situation as well.
I think I would disagree with you. I think that I think they're ripe for abuse in different ways. I think like older religions also have the history behind them to be
long-standing history of
and
abuse.
like priests to be like, yeah, this is a really safe person. Like they have gone through all the training of the diocese and all the priestly, the holy orders or whatever they're called, at least in Catholicism. Like, I don't know, I feel like if you have a longer standing of history, I think you can back it up being like, well, the church has always done things this way. But it's not that younger religions can't be also ripe for abuse, but I think it's for different reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I'll redact what I said because I was kind of testy about saying it in the first place, but it's an interesting.
But I know what you're saying.
It's an interesting aspect of how new of a religion it is.
You can sort of make up the rules. I think with a younger religion, you can make up the rules in a way that can be really destructive to other people and the people in your congregation. Well, older religions can bend the rules and put the history of the religion itself behind it to justify it.
Interesting.
Did you
stuff.
want to? So now we have two tangents.
Yeah, I mean, mine's like fairly similar to Grant, so I can go into mine unless Mo, you feel like yours is more similar. I don't know how you.
Or you just want to go
More
first.
related.
No, I think I'll let Katie go. But one last point I wanted to make was that I think like the difference between this particular like the FLDS versus other religions as well is because other religions, they don't cut off your access to outside information.
That's the definition of a cult. There is the control
Yeah.
part.
Yep.
Right. And that like blocking off of communications is like a military strategy that you do to cause like chaos or confusion in your enemies. And so it's wild that they're doing it to their own people. And because of that, it's basically not informed consent, right? Like anyone that is in the FLDS, like that, it was one of the things that makes a difference for me in terms of whether I consider it a cult or a religion is that, is it actually informed consent that they're with which they're entering into this group? That's it.
But I think like this is a longer conversation, but like if you're entering into a religion as a young person,
Oh, true.
maybe through your family, do you have informed consent?
Right. I mean, I was Lutheran because my parents were Lutheran.
Yeah. I mean, not that that necessarily means like if you enter in as a child that you're in a cult, but like I think, and this perfectly leads into my tangent. So
Take it away.
My tangent, I wanted to sort of talk about. I think there's a lot of moving parts here, but I would love to ask, what do you guys think are the definitions of a cult?
I used to know, like actually, but I forgot. But from what I remember, like what Mo was saying, it's about
No Googling.
Okay.
No Google.
I will
Not
look
you,
at my
saying it's
Google
Mo, 'cause
later.
I heard type.
But it's like there's religion, of course, like believing whatever. But I don't think that's not the dangerous part. You know, the dangerous part is when someone is exacting control, isolating, and abusing. That's like that's the biggest thing. It's the isolation and abuse that comes with it. Like the believing in something, it doesn't matter. Like the difference with like if you're, I'm going to use, I don't know, Christianity. That's an easy example. Like you can go to church, but you can also just as easily not go to church. The church isn't limiting your internet access. The church isn't saying where you can and can't go. It's just saying, hey, we'd love to have you. The difference between that and a cult is the cult says you can't leave. You live here.
Yeah.
You don't have internet access. We have cameras everywhere. Like that kind of thing. That would be my definition anyway.
I was gonna say isolation. Isolation is the main thing where it's like once you're in, getting out is next to impossible.
Yeah.
Or it's like specifically
It's about trapping.
almost frowned upon. It's a trap. So
Yeah. So It's funny because Chris brought this up to me when I was thinking about what I would do for a tangent, but I have listened to this podcast a lot that's called Sounds Like a Cult. And it has many different episodes in the podcast talking about how many different fads, communities, trends, etc. may sound like a cult.
Ballet school.
They say ballet school. I can go down the list of recent episodes and you guys will laugh because sometimes if you really think about it, you're like, oh, I could see that. Like they said
we already
Costco
we touched on it, right? With frats.
yeah,
Right?
but the
Or
cult
schools.
of Dave Ramsey, the cult of Mormon Mom Talk, which is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which is a show. I would go all on about it if we had more time. The cult of Costco, the cult of dance moms, the cult of sounds like a cult, the people who listen to this podcast, the cult of twin flames, the cult of mission trips, the cult of conservative youth activism, the cult of wine moms, the cult of Hollywood, and it can
Ooh.
keep going on and on and on.
See, that's like the more that we learn about like everything that's been going down in Hollywood with like also the Diddy case and things like that. Like the entertainment industry has so much like
Yeah,
cult
no,
like
100%.
activity inside of it.
But there's so many, like the cult of Munchausen by proxy, the cult of Lululemon, the cult of Glossier, the cult of Love is Blind, of Catholic School, of K-pop, of chiropractors, of the CIA, of Amazon, of high fashion, etc. And it's really funny because they have different definitions. Like if they're talking about a topics that they're like the cult of podcasts, they would give us their ranking system, which is live your life, which is like pretty tame. Like it's
Do
chill
it if you
that
want
you're
to.
doing.
You don't have to do it. You can do it.
The middle tier, which is watch your back. It's not completely bad yet, but watch your back because it could be on the horizon. And the third one is get the fuck out. And I would say when we're looking at the FLDS, we're definitely looking at get the fuck out. So Masterclass, the site, defines the 4 points of cult as authoritarian control, extremist beliefs, isolation from society, and veneration of a single individual. And actually, the woman who hosts Sounds Like a Cult, Amanda Montell, wrote a book called Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. And she wrote, I once heard a psychologist explain that rubbernecking results from a very real physiological response. You see an auto accident or any disaster, or even news of a disaster like a headline, and your brain's amygdala, which controls emotions, memory, and survival tactics, starts firing signals to your problem-solving frontal cortex to try to figure out whether this event is a direct injury to you. She's talking about watching these documentaries and being like, am I obsessed with cults? And it says the reason millions of us binge cult documentaries or go down rabbit holes researching groups is because we're scanning for threats. Crazy. And then she says truer answers to the question of cult influence can only arrive when you ask the right questions. What techniques do charismatic leaders use to exploit people's fundamental need for community and meeting? How do they cultivate that kind of power? The answer, as it turns out, is not some freaky mind-bending wizardry. The real answer all comes down to words, delivery, from the crafty redefinition of existing words and the invention of new ones to powerful euphemisms, secret codes, renamings, buzzwords, chants and mantras, be sweet, speaking in tongues, forced silence, even hashtags. Language is the key means by which degrees of cult-like influence occur. So very specific language tools, isolation, isolating potential, so victims, usually young, vulnerable, impressionable people, and hostility to outsiders are things that I defined as like things I notice in cults. And then Masterclass has their definition. So I think...
Sorry, I just want to jump in. I loved the hostility to outsiders edition
Yeah.
because that's something too that's like, how else do you get somebody to really effectively isolate themselves? Everybody else outside of this space is your enemy.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting point.
And I think when Grant said something really funny when you were like, let's ban all cults, I was like, it's never going to happen. Because if you think about how politics happens too, it's like what we're in right now in the US, people are really wanting some sort of like radical shifting, probably towards more left-leaning ideals. And what we see every couple of 10s, 50 years, whatever, is we see kind of switches back and forth. We see people angered by how the left-leaning ideals have affected them So they switched to a right-leaning side. I mean, that's kind of how we saw the Nazi regime rise. And the same thing with sort of Donald Trump. People are like, I haven't been listened to, so why don't we shift this way? I think it's the same thing with cults. I think we see people who are like, I don't feel any sense of community. I don't feel any sense of like social mobility in my life. Which way could I find that in myself? I found that with myself constantly. I had this experience when I was in Maine of like living with 7 other people, just like coexisting, cooking with each other. And I'm like, there's something really, really cool about this. And I can see the mindset when you're like, I hate my job, I hate my life, I hate paying rent, I hate doing all this shit. What is my way out? Oh, I could live in like a commune with other people. And that can slowly go way downhill really quickly. And then we come out of it where people are like, oh my God, no more of this communal living. Everybody's isolated. And we keep going back and forth because we're never satisfied with where we are.
No, totally.
As a society. What are you going to say, Grant?
I actually, like, I just wanted to expand upon what you're saying. Just like how there's like the wild swings. And the reason why it's so difficult, like your question of like, how do you define it, is one of the reasons why it's so hard to stop cults is that unfortunately, like I looked up some things, I'll read through them in a second. But the problem is that a lot of them could be applied to religion. And that's not saying that those religions are bad. What is bad about that, though, is that cults are hiding themselves underneath that umbrella of religion and using it to abuse people. That's the tough part. That's why it's so difficult to like identify it. That's why like so many people that are in a cult are saying, we're not a cult. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like that happens. So like some of the things that I saw, this is from Very Well Mind, so take this with a grain of salt, but I just thought some of the stuff that they said was interesting. They have 10. One of them is absolute authoritarianism without accountability. Zero tolerance for criticism or questions. Leave it on the shelf. Lack of meaningful
Leave it on the shelf.
Yeah. Lack of meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget. Unreasonable fears about the outside world that often involve evil conspiracies and persecutions. He even said that when he was starting to be on the run from the FBI. He was saying that this is just, persecutions of being right or whatever. Yeah. A belief that former followers are always wrong for leaving and there is never a legitimate reason for anyone else to leave. And then 6 is abusive members, so on and so forth. But like, one of them, I think, was there being just like one person, like one charismatic leader that we talked about. Like, and that's the thing. Yeah. It's like there are religions that are based on the teachings of one person. So it's like, but those aren't cults. So it's like, it's muddy. It gets really muddy really quick. And that sucks.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we talk about cults and we think immediately of like Jonestown, or we think of Heaven's Gate, or we think of Waco, or we think of, like you said, even religion. If you're someone who like really rejects religion, you can absolutely see any religion as following the tenets of a cult. But I think what's really interesting about Amanda Montell's podcast, she just brought on a co-host, so now her and her co-host, is that if you really think about anything could be a cult, couldn't it? Like a company could be a cult.
Yep.
A corporation can be a cult, obviously.
Watch Severance, it explores that.
Yeah. A fandom can be a cult. A trend can be a cult. And I'm not saying that for people to inspire fear, but I think we need to be wary too of like, it's not just the really intense religious cults and it's like, that would never be me. I would never find myself in the FLDS or Heaven's Gate. I have no idea how people fall into that, but you think of yourself every single day perhaps in a vulnerable situation. Like I was saying, if you're like, I hate my job, I hate where I live, I hate that I pay rent, I hate that I have no upward mobility, what would it mean to join a community where you don't have to worry about those things? And then suddenly maybe you find yourself falling into all of these different holes that the community has set up, and then slowly you're one of these people that has fallen into a cult. I mean, why were so many cults happening in the 60s and 70s? Because they were really opening up their ideas to different ways of living and different ways to interact socially. There was a lot of drugs going on. There was a lot of anti-Vietnam sentiment. And I'm not saying like, oh, therefore like very strict conservative ideas is the way to go, but like any of us could really fall into the pitfalls of a cult, and a cult has very expansive meanings. So when we talk about the definitions of a cult, I think we also have to open our minds and be like, I would not necessarily be immune
Yes.
to the draws of a cult, because like even some of these topics that Amanda lists, like the cult of Glossier, I'm obsessed with Glossier. I love being a part of something like that. Like,
Aritzia.
oh yeah, Aritzia. Like there's different things that, like, as a woman, I know that different companies become very viral and target people, and it can become a cult. If you're able to buy something and create solidarity with another person, that could be a cult.
Yeah.
So
One of the
That's my
documentaries we covered,
tangent.
right, was Brandy
Yeah.
Helville and the cult of fast fashion.
Exactly. And fast fashion is itself. It's like you're still like, how do I get more? How do I become something else? Become a part of something else. Like if you see Brandy as a really popular brand, then it's like, how do I become a Brandy girl? There's the idea
Right.
of the Brandy girl. Yeah.
What
were you gonna say, Grant?
I want to get to Mo's because I know we're running lower on time. But
Totally.
quickly, one thing that Mo did say about like Katie, what you're saying, that some people might be like, why would anyone ever fall into this? Like Mo said, cult leaders wouldn't do it if it didn't work. Like it
Exactly.
works. Like, and you like you said, you get vulnerable. It doesn't necessarily have to be in religion, but people are vulnerable at times in their lives. It just happens. We're people. And like you said,
Yeah.
it's not like we're trying to scare people, but it's like, just be discerning.
No.
Like,
Be discerning.
yeah.
And it can be in any situation.
Yeah.
And I think we could go into the definitions of a cult for hours, but like we all kind of know the noticing, we know the identifying principles, but maybe expand your ideas of what may be a cult to be safe.
But anyway, Mo, what's your tangent?
So one
Go
year
on.
ago, I was vulnerable. I was kind of feeling like lonely because it's been years after college, and I like had never found a community similar to what I had experienced in college. And like one day, two women approached me on the metro, and were like, "Hey, do you want to like check out this church? Like, this is what we do. Would you want to just like have a conversation?" Blah blah blah. And so they invited me to the church. I visited them 1 week later, and this was a local like Church of the Latter-day Saints.
Whoa.
Oh.
Yeah. And I knew going into it, I had no intention of like converting or anything like that, but I was like curious from like a community building perspective how they handle all of that and what the differences would be compared to, say, Islam, which is the religion that I grew up in. And it was super interesting. So like the day that I went in, I met two guys, Elder Vang and Elder Guyman, and they were really cool. They're like super normal. And every couple of weeks I would go, this was like September through December of 2023. And
Oh, so this was really recent. When you
Yeah.
said a year ago,
Yeah.
I was like, wait.
Yeah.
I was at
It's almost exactly a
StreamYard.
year
Like
ago,
this
yeah.
was
Oh
like
my God.
this was just before like we launched our podcast.
Mm.
And so these two dudes would text me regularly. We'd read scripture. We'd like just talk about it, etc.
Wow.
It was honestly like a fun experience. And there was never like a hard pitch, but toward the end, they did invite me out to a baptism one time at a different church. It was like really cool to see. And they basically picked up on the fact that I would never convert. So at some point they like stopped reaching out, which is cool, right? Like they can take a hint. I wouldn't say this was a cult or anything like that. I liked a lot about religion, and ultimately I don't think it's for everyone. And there's a lot I don't like about most modern religions. I think we're all on the same page about things like homophobia, sexism, reproductive rights, the dogma, all that stuff. But I think the benefits of religion don't get talked about enough. So I'll just read like some of the notes that I took about what I liked about their church.
Mo always comes with his notes. I love it.
Yeah. So one difference compared to mosques and other places is that this was co-ed, which I found interesting and refreshing. So like men could talk to women, and they were like shared same physical spaces. They also had separate spaces. So like sometimes it'd be a discussion that were men only and women only, but they also had some where it was mixed groups. And they had like small discussion groups, scripture study, Bible study, whatever they call it. And that was, I think, a nice way to build like deeper relationships with people in a group setting. And they also had the large congregations, which made you feel like a part of something bigger. And then it's a third place. That's something we don't really have anywhere in society nowadays. and they were doing hobbies there. Like when I visited, there were people playing Magic the Gathering. They had a basketball court. And also it is very appealing to have like one book of like stories and wisdom upon which they can draw and for relating their own types of experiences and like relate to the archetypes that they find in that book. Also for me, like the fact that it was in English was really nice because I can read Arabic, but I never understood any of it. So like mosques were an interesting place for me. I also love the fact that they incorporate like music and singing in the Mormon church. And overall, like just having this like big mission that you feel like you're in the same boat with everyone in was really cool. And I think you can get all of these different things that I just talk about in individual aspects, like go seek each of them out. But it's nice to have like a full package that you can just plug into. It's just a lot less effort. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Oh no, I once you're done with your tangent, because it's just something that I thought of.
So I think all of these things to some extent may be necessary to be like a healthy human being. And so it's very appealing to have all of those things in one package. And I think a lot of us got it through school at some point, maybe work for some people. I definitely like just see the appeal overall. And for me, like overall afterward, I haven't really thought about it. For me, that need, the most important part of it was having like interesting, meaningful conversations with people in long form. And so after Katie and I like started building the podcast and meeting new people like every couple of weeks and having awesome conversations with them, I didn't feel this need anymore. I just like completely forgot about it. And
I don't have the thing. It's Chris's computer.
So yeah, like I don't have a clear ending to that, but those were like what things that I found really interesting about religion and that I can appreciate it.
That is super
I
interesting.
think that's so cool.
I can wrap it up for you, Mo.
Go ahead.
We all got to get back over to the YMCA. That's where it all. That place has got everything you need. You know what I mean? It's got the basketball courts. It's got community space. It's got a place for you to exercise. It's got, you know what I mean? Let's get back. Let's reclaim the YMCA and the YWCA.
I think it's the third space thing is really important. I think a lot of us are lacking community. I felt that in my own life too. I think the city, because we live in New York, is really big and sometimes it can feel really isolating. But I think I mean, if it's religion for you to find community in, or it's friends online or in person, or if it's a block party, it's your neighbors, it's activities you do. I think community and being in person, if you can, with each other, is huge. You notice such a difference.
It's huge.
The last thing I'll say on that is that the other aspect of church that we're kind of glossing over is it is a free space. You don't have to pay anything to go there.
I mean, sometimes you have tithing.
Well,
like you do have to pay, but it's
like,
not like
even the most churches will just let anybody in. And like especially in New York City, there are not a lot of like public, comfortable, clean spaces for people to organize as a community.
I got one. The library.
True.
You can't, but that's the thing. Can you? It's like there's, to a certain degree, like there are rooms that you can rent in a library, but
yes, but that's the thing that I mean, people are worried about funding for libraries getting taken away because they are a really important third space. So go to your local library, get a library card because those are mostly free. I mean, I get all of my books from the library, except for the amount of books because I have a book buying addiction. But besides that, I read a lot from the library.
The library.
The library. Get yourself a card and you got yourself
when Katie starts singing, you know we're in the green room.
We're in the green room now. So for new people, this is the green room where we talk about, we shoot the shit basically.
Random.
It's yapping time.
It's yapping time. So if you don't like us yapping, get the hell out of here. We don't even want you.
See you next week for whatever we watch next week.
Yeah, so speaking of, if you don't want to get to the end and see this, you can just go to the description, see what we're watching next week, and then we'll hit you up next week. But anyway, we're going to talk about weirdo shit now, whatever we want. Spin the wheel.
I don't have anything. Because I think like sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I want you guys to shoot the shit. I don't know.
Katie's
I
like,
talk a
green
lot.
room is boys' time.
No, that's not it. It's like I'm almost like I don't want to have to manufacture something if like you guys have stuff you really want to talk about. You know?
Oh God, do I have anything I really want to talk about? Mo, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, sure.
Heck yeah.
I have found myself getting massages, and toward the end of the massage, after
yeah.
they're done with my calves, I find myself in an awkward position asking them like, "Hey, can you do my feet too? Because my feet are really tight."
Yeah.
And then I kept like noodling on it, and I found a solution for me to get consistent foot massages without having to go to a masseuse on a regular basis. And here they are.
Ooh.
I've seen these before.
Oh yeah. Do you like them?
Can you describe them to the audio listeners?
Yes, these are sandals that have like pebble stones built into the soles so that when you're wearing them and you walk around, you're basically walking on rocks the whole time. And it is a little painful,
It
but it
sounds
has
like
the
torture.
Same, I know, but
I've
like
tried them on.
a good
They're
massage is a little
rough.
painful, right? Like, and so it has like a similar effect where this is only my second day with them, but I can feel the soles of my feet loosening up a little bit and getting
He's
more
getting
relaxed.
something to
Oh
show
my
you that is
God.
related.
Show and tell. Show and tell.
Woohoo!
Yeah. No, those
Oh,
are
that's
cool.
cool.
I had a friend who had those, and I
What the
thought you were
hell?
gonna get the mat. I thought you were gonna get the mat thing.
This is more irrelevant.
Is that for herding sheep?
Yes.
I'm the
this
sheep.
is my religious
Herd me. I'm
symbol.
the sheep.
Um,
Pull me off the stage.
this is sorry not to interrupt your green
No,
room,
I'm
but
done,
like
I'm
this
done.
is a similar thing that my mom. So audio listeners
and I
get
can never
fucked.
find a space for it to put it away. It's always
So this
laying
is like a
somewhere.
self massager that you can use that my mom left here at one point. But like you can set it on your back and like pull down. But I've also right. So it's got all these like bulbs on it, and I use it on my feet. So I'll like put a bulb, like the long bulb.
I like how you say that. You should say it a couple more times.
Bulb on my foot, and I just like
That's one of my ick words, bulbous.
I pull it on my foot, and it actually really helps release tension in my feet because I also have tense feet. So you reminded me of this fucking thing.
We also have that.
The bulb
What's that
thing.
called?
So we also have a spike mat, which is
Oh,
those things. It
They
feels
make
great.
me itchy.
Yeah, you have to make sure it's nice and sanitized. But
They make me itchy.
when I
think
walk
there's
on
dust
it, it also releases your feet because it's like pinpoint. It's acupressure. There we go. That's the word.
yeah.
But it helps it brings blood flow. It's kind of like micro needling. I've been derma rolling occasionally on my skin, and it's been really helpful because it's actually real science. Derma rolling, micro needling specifically, helps bring blood flow to your skin, and then that helps repair and add collagen back into your skin. So
We
it's
love
really
when the
good.
boys are into skincare without telling them.
So yeah. But if you're done with your green room, I had a green room as well that I was really excited to share.
Well, you got to report back and let us know
Will
how
do.
it goes.
Oh, with your feeties?
Yeah, with my feeties.
With your tootsies.
You little dogs.
Can we stop?
Why?
This is the green room. We can say whatever we want.
It's fucking scream room.
No more words for feet that are not
Bulbous.
feet, please.
Sorry.
Bulbous.
Yeah.
I hate that word.
Bulbous phalanges.
Everybody's moist.
So
My bulbous.
would everybody here generally say that you feel pretty tired all the time?
Yes, all day, every day.
Honestly, not recently, which is weird.
Okay, that's good. I've been doing better. I think ever since I got my nose surgery, I've been sleeping well. But there's been a general consensus among people, and it's literally been reported upon, that we are, as a nation, as a people, as a species, we're very tired all the time. And it's this level of exhaustion that we can't quite escape. Well, I found this great video, and I'm not going to play it, but I just need to make sure that I have the... Mo, you might know Johnny Harris on YouTube.
Yeah.
He was a reporter for either Vox or Vulture, I can't remember, but he makes amazing video essays, and he's like an investigative reporter. I love his work. But he did a video on why we're so tired. And he does I would highly recommend everybody go watch it. We'll link it in the show notes. Speaking of which,
Aw.
Katie, go sleep.
I think it'd be really funny if I fall asleep sometimes on the podcast.
But he to like TLDR, it's because we still have monkey brains.
Yes.
So we are still walking around today with a brain that was developed hundreds of thousands of years ago. And essentially we
Haven't had an update
Our bra-
since.
exactly our brains have not evolved
We're on iOS 2.
have not evolved at the pace of technology and life and modern life and all of the things that it brings. And that's twofold. I've talked about this, I think, probably with everybody at some point, but there's a great book called Why We Sleep by Dr. Walker, I believe his name is.
Matthew Walker.
Matthew Walker, yep. And it's a great book. It revolutionized like how I think about sleeping and these misconceptions around sleep and all these things. But the reason we're so tired is because, one, we're not getting good sleep anymore. And that comes down to all of the artificial lights that we have and the culture of work and how it's related to like people just like sleep differently. Some people are just night owls naturally, and that's evolutionary to them because we needed, when we were Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, walking around the plains of Earth, we needed people to watch the fire and the camp at night. So
The
people,
caveman reference.
seriously,
Again.
it's like when we were cavemen, we needed people awake at all hours to
Remember,
watch.
Mo, you said you were going to try to include cavemen in every episode. I told Chris about that.
Oh,
the
well,
other
there we
day.
go. It's
Nice.
bringing it
Didn't
right back.
even remember.
But so it's literally like caveman brain evolved so that people would be awake at certain times throughout the day and night. So that's one aspect. And also, you know, our circadian rhythm in our sleep schedule was always mandated by the sun coming up, and the sun going down, right? You get sleepy when the sun goes down because it gets dark and your brain says it's time to sleep. So we would go to sleep. And he touches on that in the video. But the big revelation that I got from this video was the reason why we're so dang tired all the time is because of our prefrontal cortex, and specifically a compound or a chemical or something in our brain called glutamate. Glutamate builds up in your brain whenever neurons fire. And specifically, the prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision making. When we were Neanderthals, we didn't have to make any decisions. Not really. You'd wake up, you'd tend to the camp, you'd maybe like check in with the people at your camp, then you'd go out and you'd find food, and then you'd come back, and then you'd go to sleep. And that was it. But then, over hundreds of thousands of years, and then technology rapidly increasing, our decisions, like the decisions that we have to make day in and day out, increased exponentially. But even still, like around the turn of the 1900s, 1800s, like your life at that point in time was not that heavy on decisions. You'd like wake up and like you had like a couple outfits you could probably wear, but because most people only had a few nice clothes, or you know what I mean, like it wasn't the level of consumerism that we have today where you've got a closet full of clothes, right? You'd wake up and you'd probably wear something that you'd always worn, you know, for your Wednesday day, and then you'd go to your work, which was usually an industrial job, and you just do the same thing over and over. And then when you left work, you would come home, and in terms of things to do, it wasn't like you had a whole lot of things to choose from. You could read a book, you could listen to the radio, maybe
Do a puzzle.
go to the movies, maybe, if you had the money to do that. Otherwise, it was just eating dinner, reading maybe the newspaper, which there was one of for your town, and then you go to sleep, right? And that was like
I
the
want that.
1900s. The modern age, the moment that you wake up, you're making decision after decision after decision after decision. Constantly. From the very moment that you wake up, and your brain is constantly thinking about things. But it's this decision-making aspect that is like, what app am I going to look at? What news am I going to consume? What am I going to eat? Should I order? Should I do that? It's every single one of those little decisions puts glutamate into your brain. And the only way to clear glutamate from your brain is by sleeping, which is why you feel tired. That's the issue.
Decision fatigue.
And so he goes, it's decision fatigue, and he goes into his like little list of things that you can do to help yourself. And one of the things sounds simple: reduce the amount of decisions that you have to make throughout the day. And he said maybe there is something to Steve Jobs wearing the exact same outfit every single day because he doesn't have to make a decision about that. Like, you know, there's in terms of like productivity and stuff like that. I don't want to make this about like like American culture. You got to be more productive and get that bag and whatever. But, you know, we have to be productive with our days a lot of times. So what decisions can you limit? And that's why I see people talking about like rejecting modernity and choosing simplicity. It reduces the amount of decisions
Chris
that you have.
has a flip phone.
I have a flip phone.
He sure does.
And I think that it has helped me in many ways because on the subway, I'm not doing anything other than like listening to music and just like looking around, or I'm reading a book or whatever. I've been reading Dune, and it's been every single time I get on the train, I'm just like reading freaking Dune.
Fwickin' Dune.
So, yeah, I would highly recommend. Jeremy goes into a much deeper analysis and a very like his video is very entertaining in the same way. So I'd highly recommend you watch it. But that blew my mind. I was like, oh yeah,
That's super cool.
it's
Makes
just
a lot
straight
of
up
sense.
No, that makes perfect sense.
decision fatigue.
Yeah. I have like some really quick tangents off of your green room, if I may. Give me like
Please.
1 second. Okay, so number one, this is really interesting, but Johnny Harris was.
Johnny Harris. I said Jeremy.
Oh
You said
shit!
Johnny.
I
Did I
think
say-
you said
no, no.
Johnny.
I
You
thought I
did
said
say
Jeremy.
Johnny. I would
Yeah.
have corrected you because I saw it.
Johnny was raised Mormon. And
Yo,
His parents helped build Zion. This was a different Zion. but
Yes.
Still.
that
are the
is
chances?
So
That's
crazy.
wild.
And he went to Brigham Young.
Wow.
That's crazy.
BYU.
BYU.
Second thing I wanted to say was
BYU.
part, I think, of like religion is that it reduces the amount of decisions that you have to make. It's very easy to be like, yeah, I can wake up and I know exactly what I'm going to do, what foods I can or can't eat, what clothes I can wear,
What I believe in.
what I
Like,
believe
you
in.
don't have all these like existential questions sometimes.
Yep.
Wow. That's
Crazy.
actually that just made me think
He
about.
brought it back.
But no, but like even in day-to-day life, it's a huge answer as to like why we attach ourselves to people who sound certain. Because with the amount of decisions that we have to make day in and day out, I'm never certain about anything. So when someone's like and they speak with such like I don't know, certainty, I'm gonna keep saying that word, but they speak in such a way that they sound like they know what the fuck they're talking about. We're always just like, yeah, right? Like that makes sense. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one I wanted to mention was I noticed that whenever I travel and I sleep on firmer beds, I sleep better. Even if it's and like I'm just more relaxed and energetic throughout the day. And you like one potential explanation for this is that I'm like less stressed when I'm traveling, but for me that's not been the case because most of the times that I've been traveling it was like for work or something like that where it's actually more stress. So I know it's something like else. And one thing that I'm going to try this week is to sleep on a harder bed because my bed is like really soft and it just like sinks under. And so I've been doing some research and I found that Japanese people, for example, they sleep on the
tatami
ground.
mats.
Exactly. They have like a little futon thing on top of the tatami mats. So I'm going to try and recreate that. And I bought
That's sick.
these things and I'm going to
That's so cool.
and I bought like a stronger bed frame. And so it's going to look something like this, except it's going to be a metal bed. But it just came in and I'm going to like try it out over the next week or so. And I'll let you guys know if it does anything for my sleep.
That's awesome.
I just
That's
wanted
so
I wanted
cool.
to jump on that really quickly because I felt this way for quite some time. I remember sleeping on a Tempur-Pedic mattress one time and I got the worst sleep I've ever gotten in my entire life because you sink into it and your shoulders are hunched and it's like your body needs support. And shout out my mom for figuring out a really, really cool and very comfortable combination for a bed, which was she did a ton of research. And I love my mom for this because she's very, very well read and well researched whenever she sets her mind on something. And so what she did was she went to IKEA and she bought the firmest mattress that she could find, like their top firmness, because it still had a little bit of give to it, but it was like very firm. And then she bought a 2-inch or 3-inch latex mattress topper. And the latex has a decent amount of give to it, but that all creates this like perfect level of like cushioning that I had never experienced. And I slept in her bed one time and I was like, never gotten a better night's sleep. You need that support. You absolutely do. Having too soft a bed you know, your body's going to be like in weird positions. You're not going to be able to effectively move around. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. This was a sick
That's
episode.
super cool. Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Can we pause real quick so we can let our friend in because we delayed him coming to our. I just said, can you come at 7:30? And he's like, I'm already walking.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell him to come upstairs.
All right, I'm
But
just
then-
going to
Cameo.
Because
It's got a green womb.
I got a green womb.
Green womb.
Well,
Boom,
this is
boom.
this. I wanted this. Basically, all my green rooms are the same, but like this is like the media check-in of like all the things that I've been absorbing.
Video games, keyboards.
Video games, keyboards of shows.
I love it.
But most notably is that I'm trying to get back into horror. It's spooky season now. It's October. So most notably, Silent Hill 2, the remake came out. Playing
That's
that.
right.
By the way, never played Silent Hill 2 before ever. I've
So
never touched a Silent Hill game in my life, besides PT, which is my favorite horror game.
What's PT?
PT is what stands for playable teaser for a now canceled Silent Hill game. Boo.
Based on the demo alone, this PT, it could have been one of the greatest horror games.
Why
in
was it
existence.
canceled?
So many,
stuff,
a
most
bunch
likely,
of
and,
stuff.
yeah.
They didn't
they
like the
made
director, basically. But that game, just as a demo, is still one of the best horror games, even though it's not even finished. But never played Silent Hill 2. It's like one of the best horror games, apparently. Never played it. Really enjoying it. The Until Dawn remake just came out. Been playing that as well.
Sick.
That's also pretty fun. It's very campy, very silly. Not nearly as scary. But another thing in horror news, Uzumaki started coming out.
I know. I just started reading the manga.
Okay, yeah, because I actually wanted to ask you, because I'm too scared to watch it. I don't like body horror. Body horror makes me uncomfortable, doesn't make me scared. Just makes me sick to my stomach, so I don't like it.
Sure.
But I wanted to ask
So
if you'd
don't
seen
watch The
it.
Substance.
No, I'm not going to.
It is so good though.
It's
I've
bad.
heard it's really
bad.
good.
No, it's like it's good, but it's like the body horror.
Yeah. But I wanted to
It's
ask.
honestly an incredible movie.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I wanted to ask you, Katie, if you had seen Uzumaki, or if you know anything about it and what you thought about it.
So I have a friend at work who works at a comic book store as well. And I was saying, I'm like, he was like, do you like manga or comic books? I'm like, not really, but I've read Tomy. I really like Tomy. And he's like, oh my God, you should check out more of Junji Ito's things, like Uzumaki. And I didn't put together, I guess I like saw, but like didn't, I don't know. It was like, oh, I'm going to read this manga. And Uzumaki is a show that's coming out. Like it was like two different trains of thought. And then I put it together like, oh, this manga now has a show. So I started reading it. I'm like probably like 20% into it. It's really good. I really like it. I think it's super cool.
Is it a short story like Tomy was? A bunch of short stories, or is it a one long story?
It's in his same writing style where it's like the same story, but it's like little bits. I would say less like Tomy in it follows the same people, but it has like chapters, so
Okay.
it kind of feels like short stories, but they're all
So it's all like, it's not an anthology series. It's more of just like one
Yes,
story.
sorry, that was confusing. Yes.
No, you're good.
But I looked up because I'm like, oh my God, now that there's a show, I really want to watch the show once I read it. I heard the first episode's great, but I heard the second episode is not good.
Yes. Actually, I have information about that too.
I heard it's like PS2. It looks like the PS2.
Yeah, the animation supposedly on the second episode takes a nosedive, as opposed to the first episode. And the, I think, executive producer, don't quote me on that, I don't know if that's a big head at that show, the studio that did that show. He posted on Blue Sky saying not anything super specific, but he basically said, "You're right, it is worse."
Yeah.
Like
I
not
read
even.
that too.
Yeah, he was just like, "We got screwed." And he basically said that they had three options: cancel the show, release just the first episode, or release the whole series incomplete. Like that was the only option that they had. And
They didn't say why they got screwed?
no, I don't think he was able to say. So my assumption is probably time. They probably weren't given enough time or resources to finish it. But he basically just said, in order for the respect of the work that they put in, he decided to just release the whole thing. But like, yeah, it sucks that even the
Damn.
creator was like, yeah, it's not good.
Maybe we should watch it.
Yeah.
Give it a shot. I'd love
I
to
kinda
hear what you
wanna watch
think.
A scary movie, but I think you should read the manga. I
We'll
think it's
see.
great.
I've seen I said this to another friend of mine who loves horror. I love Junji Ito, but like from a distance. Like I don't like his stuff, not because it's bad, but because it doesn't scare me. It just makes me very uncomfortable, and I don't like that feeling. I prefer like the dread of horror over like disgusting type stuff. So
see, I would say for this one, there is dread. There is this sense of like there's something weird happening, and why are all these people like falling into it? And I don't find it like as gross
okay,
as like Tomy maybe.
I might not. I don't know. I did one thing that my friend said is he was like, there is a part where a guy breaks all the bones in his body, and I'm like, that I don't want to see.
But you don't see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Either
so,
way.
Like, I'll just tell you the beginning of what it is. It's not really spoiling anything, but like it's about like this guy who starts seeing spirals everywhere, and he becomes obsessed with spirals, and then spirals start coming up, and like for many people, and it keeps happening.
It's gross. I've seen a lot of the key art, and it is very gross. It's cool,
I didn't
but
think
gross.
It was that gross.
You have a much higher tolerance for gross than me. We've talked about this before. I remember when our last job, you told me, I can't remember what movie it was. I'm like, that sounds cool. I'm never going to watch it.
Probably?
The man can't even touch
think so.
styrofoam.
Was it about a girl fucking a car? And
Yes,
she,
that's
like,
the one.
broke her
Yes.
nose?
Yeah.
That was the most like movie I've ever watched. The Substance is kind of similar.
No, I was like, The Substance probably goes a step further for me personally.
I didn't think it was as bad.
Oh, really? I thought so.
So basically, I think you guys should see The Substance because I think it's.
I'm not going to.
I was shocked at how funny it was. It was very funny.
You can cover your eyes at the gross parts.
But that's most of the most of the movie. So I would just say,
it
Grant,
is a
it's
little
not for you.
intense.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay, you don't
no.
have to
I
watch
respect it. I don't think I'll watch it.
I think I might be one of the looks from the movie for Halloween because I think it's really funny.
Ooh, yeah. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But anyway.
There's a moment towards the end where you're like, oh my God, she looks fucking crazy. And it's awesome.
Crazy.
Fucking crazy.
But yeah, that was my green room. That's the things that I've been absorbing and being interested in. Besides Don Don, which you guys should watch. Anyway,
Oh,
that
yeah.
was my...
We really want to watch Don Don.
Yes.
Dun,
Just
dun,
so
dun,
good.
dun, dun. I started listening. I was like, dun, 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 dun.
It's such a good song. It's so good.
Yeah, it's awesome. I enjoyed it.
And that's a wrap.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
And leave us a thumbs up if you like this episode.
Before we say goodbye, check out the description to know what we're watching next. Thanks for hanging out.
And stay frosty.
What the
No branding.
You always do that.
We don't have a brand. There is no brand.
I'm
Okay.
just,
I'm ending the recording.
how do you
I
find
hated that.
Stay frosty.